There are many different skills and qualities good coaches will display so that their coaching is effective and so information can come across to their participants. Some of the most important skills a coach can have include good communication, organisation, time management, analysing, evaluating and problem solving. The three skills which I'm going to be talking about and that I think are vital for good coaching include good communication, problem solving and time management. Communication is a key skill required by coaches and is vital when teaching players. Information has to be shared between a coach and many other people such as athletes, parents, staff, officials, teachers, spectators, etc. So it's very important that a coach is able to clearly and successfully get their information across. There are three main types of communication. These include verbal, non-verbal and listening. They are all very important aspects of communication. A coach may need to communicate to their players on their team about instructions, safety, feedback, encouragement, behaviour of the players, etc. Verbal communication is the main way a coach will interact with their participants. Verbal communication involves talking to others and sharing information via speech. Coaches need to have good verbal communication as they need to explain the drills to their players, technique, talk tactics, provide feedback and much more. When a coach is speaking to their players, they also need to think about the tone and pitch of their voice. They need to speak loudly and clearly so that everyone can hear the instructions. Their pitch should be positive and they should sound enthusiastic so the players will be engaged. Coaches also need to think about what language to use based on the ages of the individuals they are teaching. As, when coaching younger players, instructions should be simple, the use of harder words should be minimised so that kids will understand, and a coach shouldn't ramble as kids will lose interest and become distracted. Whereas with adults or older players, a coach will be able to use more jargon and have more complex instructions. After a coach has finished an explanation, they should check everyone's understanding and answer any questions. They should also ask some questions about what they've just explained to the players so that the players aren't just saying that they understand just for the sake of it. Furthermore, a coach should make sure that all of their information they have relayed to their participants is correct and accurate, and also that everyone's paying attention and listening, so they don't have to repeat all of the instructions again. When a coach speaks verbally to players, they need to think about what they say and how they say it. They need to take into consideration how they speak to certain people. For example, when leading a group of girls and boys in hockey, they should call everyone by their name, or if they don't know everyone's name, they should use a term which can be used for both boys and girls. A coach should never use any sexist language, such as when speaking to girls, referring to them as love, but when speaking to boys he calls them mates or whatever. A coach also needs to think about the tone at which they speak to people. For example, if they're coaching someone with a disability, they should speak to them just as they spoke to everyone else, as so treat them equally. When a coach is speaking to someone who is disabled or a different race or a worse ability, they should never use a patronising or rude tone. That's completely inappropriate, demeaning and unfair. They should treat everyone equally and speak to everyone exactly the same. Non-verbal communication includes body language, facial expressions and gestures. A great deal can be interpreted without saying a word. For example, a frown, shaking of the head, smile or thumbs up. Players will be able to read their coach's mood and how they are feeling just by their either positive or negative body language. It's very important that as a coach you show and maintain positive body language, as constantly having negative body language as a coach comes across as to their team as being very unapproachable, grumpy and uninterested. This is bad as players may feel unable or unwilling to talk to coaches because they may feel a bit scared or because they just don't feel able to. This will result in players being unable to progress and improve. Furthermore, if players don't understand the instructions, they won't want to ask the coach, and so will go through training sessions and not know what they're doing or if they're doing it right. A coach also needs to be careful about the way that they stand. They must appear open so that players want to come and talk to them. A coach shouldn't cross their arms, as that will look like they don't want to talk and interact with players. Some of the main non-verbal communications that coaches use throughout their sessions are demonstrations and hand signals. Demonstrations are a great way for a coach to convey a lot of information without even speaking. It helps players to gain a mental picture in their minds of what tasks or drills they've been asked to do. Hand signals are mainly used by a coach in matches, as they're a good way to convey a lot of information, as sports pitches can be very big and so shouting isn't always the most effective and clearest way of communicating. Also, certain hand signals or symbols may be used by a coach to tell the team when they should apply tactics. A coach will arrange before a match or in a training session what certain hand signals represent and will show these hand signals on the side of the pitch when the team are playing to employ a certain tactic or to increase or slow down the pace of the game or something like that. Using hand signals also means that the other team won't understand or know what the team have been asked to do by the coach. Listening is a very key factor in communication. A coach must make sure that their players listen to them when they are talking and explaining instructions so that the players understand and so they don't need to always repeat instructions. If a coach is respected by their team and is liked by players, players will want to listen and behave well. Talking amongst players while the coach is talking disrupts others around them who are wanting to listen and concentrate. This is why coaches need to be firm and set out rules about what is and isn't allowed in terms of listening when others are talking, etc. When listening to what players have to say, a coach must make sure that they give eye contact, so it shows that they are focusing and aren't distracted. They should also do things such as nodding their head or doing something to show that they are engaged and understand what is being asked. Also, when listening to a player, a coach needs to avoid interrupting or butting in to the person talking until they've finished, as it's a bit rude. A coach should also ask questions back to the individual who has spoken to confirm their understanding of what they've just been asked and to show that they've been listening and it's polite. A coach should always listen to all individual players and should never discriminate against gender, ability, age, disability, race, or religion. If a coach is teaching a group of boys and girls, they should vary who they answer questions from and not just pick all of the boys or all of the girls to answer or ask all of the questions. They should listen to everyone who has a question and concentrate when being asked a question, no matter what gender the person is talking who's asking the question. If they are teaching football to a group of mixed ability, a coach should focus on improving everyone and not just answer questions from those who are the strongest players because they think the weaker players won't have valid questions, or always answer questions from the weaker players because they don't think the strongest players should understand, or they think the strongest players should understand every instruction and the weaker ones are those who just need to improve the most. A coach just needs to make sure that they vary who they answer the questions from, and when are listening to players, they have their full attention. There are many different problems that a coach can face. Some problems a coach may have a long time to solve, whereas others may come up very last minute or when the coach least expects it. Some problems a coach may come across that they need to solve include player selection, how to beat an opposition, how to solve negative team dynamics, transport when getting to fixtures, facilities, equipment availability, and much more. When participants go to a training session, they will expect that any problem should be solved in advance of that session so that everything can run smoothly. For example, if a piece of equipment a coach planned to use in their session for rugby was broken, they should be able to think on the spot of an alternative piece of equipment that they can use or think up a different drill that the team can do instead. A coach will encounter some very minor problems, such as they planned a drill for 12 people but only 9 people arrive. They would have to adapt the drill for a smaller amount of people. Prior to their session, a coach should always have adaptations that they can make to their drills in case something like this was to happen. But a major problem that a coach may come across could be that someone breaks their leg in a session. A coach needs to stay calm in the situation. It can be very hard as they will need to help the player as well as managing the whole group. A coach will face many problems and it's their job to deal with it on the spot and accordingly and solve whatever issues that come up. They must be flexible and able to adapt plans based on what happens. Usually the coach will be able to come up with a solution very quickly and allow things to continue as normal so that sessions aren't disrupted. When problems do arise, they can pause progress or have the potential to cause danger to the players. A coach needs to be efficient when dealing with the problems. If a coach was unable to problem solve, then training would be impossible, and there'd be so many disruptions that the session would come to a halt so regularly. This would lead to players becoming very bored and unengaged, and would most likely end up quitting. Time management for a coach is very important. Before a session, a coach will need to make sure that The facilities where the session is taking place is all booked. All the players know what time the session starts and where it is. The equipment that they need for the session and the session is all planned. This is all the basic checks that a coach needs to do in order to make sure that things run smoothly and to make sure that time isn't wasted. When the players arrive, equipment should already have been gotten out so that time isn't wasted at the beginning of the session when a coach is getting it. A coach should always be on time to all sessions of the training and should make sure that their players know what time to arrive and aren't late when so the session can start promptly. When players arrive late, it disrupts the session and means that the team have to wait around for them to be ready, and time is just wasted, which isn't fair on those who have arrived on time. Before taking a training session, a coach must spend time and put in effort to make a plan. When a coach is devising up their plan, they need to think about how long drills and warm-ups and cool-downs are going to take, so that they have an idea of what the timings are going to be like and how much they're going to be able to fit in for that session. A coach should watch out not to spend too much time on one drill and then not have enough time for any of the drills after. A coach also needs to take into account things such as the ability of players. For example, in netball, if the stronger and weaker players are doing the same drill, but the stronger players nail it much quicker or complete the activity much faster than the weaker players, the coach needs to have thought of additional things to add to the drill that they can do to make it harder, so that when the stronger players have finished, they aren't just waiting around for the weaker ones to also finish. During a session, a coach may come across drills which the team have gone through much faster than they anticipated, so the coach needs to be prepared enough so that additional drills can be added into the session if the team are racing through everything. Or, if it's taking the team longer than the coach expected to do the drills, the coach should be flexible enough to be able to not stick completely to the plan and allow the players to continue with the drill until they get the hang of it. Because there's no point moving on to the next drill or a harder drill if they haven't mastered or got the hang of the previous one. During a session, a coach needs to make sure that the activities are fun, a suitable amount of time is spent on each area of the session, that individuals' weaknesses are looked at in order to help them improve, that feedback can be given to the players, and that players know about fixtures that are coming up. A coach has many different things that they need to think about throughout the session, and in, for example, a netball session, the coach will be observing what the team has completed well in the session and what the team's areas of weaknesses are. The coach will know for the next session what can be made harder and what needs running over again. The coach will be planning in the session what the next session needs to be based upon. In a training session, a netball coach will be noting down what the team did well and what isn't going so well. So, for example, the coach may have observed that the team completed the defensive drill very well, and so for next week the coach knows what they can progress the team in defence to do by teaching harder defensive drills. The coach will also have observed that maybe footwork was a problem for the team, and so they know for next week that they should do more basic footwork drills, so that the team will be able to get the hang of it. The coach also needs to make sure that they finish the session on time, as many of their players will have other commitments that they need to do after and so can't be let out late.